Live Fit Podcast, episode 141, How Lane Kennedy Found Grace.
I mean, I struggled for so very long, and I finally took my health in my own hands and really started investigating alternative options. So I give some practical ways to, really ask for what you want and then get it. Here's a funny story. I always wanted to call the book Chasing Grace because I felt like I was always chasing this idea. And then I realized grace happens. So I called the book Grace Happens. If you're chasing something, it's just going to run away. But if you just allow grace to happen, then it just naturally unfolds.
Welcome to the Live Fit Podcast with Glenn Johnson, your resource for all things that contribute to good health. You will hear expert advice and interviews with leading authorities on fitness, food, fat loss, mindset, and the mind-body connection. You will find show notes, articles, and health programs at livefitpodcast.com.
Yes, it is time once again for the Live Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Glenn Johnson, your guide to better health. Today's guest is Lane Kennedy. You may remember her from episode 128, where she talked about insomnia, depression, anxiety, and physical pain, and how CBD helped to change all that. She was in long-term recovery and was quite leery about using cannabis. She didn't want to take any drugs for her pain, and this took a little convincing for her to even try it. But once she did, she was astounded. She had almost immediate release of her tight neck, and her back pain eased. This has allowed her to not only carry on with her life, but to thrive, as you're about to hear. In this episode, Lane is going to share with us her new book, Grace Happens, how a type of meditation is taking her thriving to a new level, and how you can get a raise at work. Good morning, Lane. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show again.
So good to be here with you. Thanks for having me back, Glenn.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been a little while. You were previously on episode 128. And at that time, you were talking about biohacking. Could you, just for the people that haven't listened to that episode, give a real brief summary of what you were talking about at that time? You were talking about how CBD helped you and mindfulness and how Western medicine let you down. Anything to add to that?
That sums it up. I mean, I struggled for so very long, and I finally took my health in my own hands and really started investigating alternative options and found that the endocannabinoid system is something that I need to take care of and nourish. And I do that through taking hemp. And then I also really realized that there's so much happening in the brain that, people just don't really know about. And so I started on this mindfulness path and kind of recalibrating the neural peptides, neural pathways in my brain so I could function and sleep and not be depressed and live with anxiety. So, those are the two things that I've, kind of like been just using in my life. I just keep going further and further down the rabbit hole, I guess.
Well, how have you been doing since we last spoke? How is the the continued refining of your mindfulness and fighting depression and anxiety and all that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's been absolutely fantastic. I think on our last episode, I really did kind of a deeper dive into hemp and CBD, and I realized that the brain has the power to really change anything, and so I started going down this path of investigating, what can I do? And that's how I got really deep on this meditation path and discovering different types of meditation. I've been meditating for about 22 years now.
Wow.
And exploring it. So this wasn't anything new to me, but I guess my obsessive mind that I have kind of led me in the right direction this time, and I discovered an ancient practice called Yoga Nidra, and this is a practice that the U.S. military uses. I use it here with the police force, the Department of Defense, and I hate to use those kind of bigger names, but it gives it some validity, right? That, oh, this is actually working, and there's a lot of science around it as well. So it's this practice that has really transformed my life, and I'm just so passionate about sharing it with people because, you know, people often think, oh, I have to meditate and it's going to be brutal and I'm going to have to sit here and it's going to be hot. Not my thing.
It's horribly boring. You sit still and do nothing. And I've been working all my life to get up this momentum and this enthusiasm and this drive to do stuff and get stuff done. And now I'm supposed to sit here and literally do nothing? What the heck are you talking about?
Yeah, that's it. That's everybody.
Can you briefly explain what some of the different meditations are? I've never heard of Yoga Nidra. What stands out about it that's different than what most people think?
Yeah, I'll give you just a couple of types of meditation, right? Like, so there's the traditional TM or transcendental meditation where, you know, you go and you get taught and you are given a mantra, you know, and it costs a little bit of money. And then you sit for, you know, twice a day, and you sit twice a day. That's the thing. You sit 20 minutes a day and you do this, this meditation. Then there's a Vipassana where you're, again, sitting and meditating, and that can be 5 minutes, that can be 20 minutes, that can be an hour. It just depends on where you're at and what's happening with you, but you really want to sit and meditate. And then there's mindfulness-based stress reduction, which I'm also trained in that as well, which is more about bringing curiosity and sitting and letting the thoughts kind of, bounce around and stumble through and breathe. There's also like a pranayama, which is more about breathing meditation. And again, you're basically sitting upright in all of these positions, focusing on your thoughts and trying to let them go. Now, and that's what I did for so many years. And then I came across Yoga Nidra, which is this, you're actually lying down. So that's a winning thing right there. Like
yeah, most
you're
people
not sitting upright, right?
Can dig on that a little bit better. Oh, I can sleep.
Right? I mean, that's it right there. You just said it perfectly, Glenn. It's like, oh, I can sleep. If you fall asleep, that's okay. That's what the body needs. And it's it can be a 10-minute Yoga Nidra. It can be a 30-minute Yoga Nidra. It can be an hour. I do like an hour of this practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
It has 5 different stages, going through the different koshas of the body, different elements of the body. And it resets the brain. And all meditation is going to build the gray matter. All meditation is going to change things. With the Yoga Nidra, you really are changing the brain state and dropping down below into this like alpha brainwave. And when you're down in this alpha and theta brainwaves, you are connecting with, I'm going to go crazy here on you, like this consciousness, this greater connection, so to speak. I don't want to go too woo-woo here.
Okay.
Because I like to keep it more scientific.
Mm-hmm.
But you're dropping down into those deep states where the body can actually change. And that's where we see depression lifting or anxiety lifting, the sleep cycles change. My body pain has left. It's been really it's just so cool. Glenn, it's so cool.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to look into that as a meditation enthusiast. I don't know if that's quite the right word, maybe a little more powerful. I meditate every day, and it's come to a point where it's only
what kind?
Well, I don't know. It started off with guided meditation on Headspace, and then I used Calm, and now I just do it on my own without listening to anything. And I'll do like real short 1 or 2 minute meditations in between clients at work when I'm working to kind of clear my headspace and reset. And so I'm fresh for the new person. I'll do it at the beginning of work, right at the end of my lunch break before I go back in. oftentimes I'll do it on my morning walk around my neighborhood. There's this nice bench in the park. I'll sit and I'll do a little, and basically I'll just focus on my breathing. So I'm not sure what it's called, but I find it very refreshing.
I love that.
I've also been,
good. And you just said something. Go ahead.
Well, I've also been working on teaching it to my 12-year-old son, who, as you can imagine, is not too keen on the idea. So I'm still trying to figure out new ways to get him a little bit more enthused about it. He's not finding the benefits like I have. And everything I say is just academic. Yeah, whatever.
So you said a couple of things that I just want to kind of touch on. You said you can walk and do it, right? So that's
I have done walking meditation, but generally I'll take a walk and then I'll sit and meditate for a while. Okay. So the walk kind of freshens me up.
Right. So when I'm working with the Special Forces, I always kind of laugh with them and I say, everybody goes to the bathroom. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you can take an extra 2 minutes and just sit on the toilet. Right? It's just like you can sit, like you can shut the door because no one's walking in when you're on the toilet, right? And it's just taking those 2 minutes to reset your brain is
never
perfect.
Thought of that.
You can sit or you can walk just like you do, walk to a place and start to begin that meditative state, and then sit for 2 minutes and just look at a tree, right? So I give these kind of easy tips to certain groups of people because everybody's so busy and they're like, I can't do it. It's too much for me. But when I talk about going to the bathroom or doing a session of yoga nidra when they're already in bed or they get to go to bed, they're like, oh, okay, I can do that. And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that you talked about your kid. So I have a 9-year-old, and one of the things that I've done with him is I'll sit or lie down on the grass, and we'll just watch the clouds go by.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So it's and it's really easy for children just to zone out and look at the clouds, right? And then there's a bunch of apps specifically designed for children's meditation. So I don't know if you've explored any of those.
I really haven't. I sort of not gave up, but just stepped away from it for a while, and I'll just focus on myself and let him be a kid in the summer. But I'll probably start it up again.
But the thing is, too, is that if he sees you, right, you're modeling such great behavior. And for the generations to come, right, they're not going to get the academic of it, but they're going to get the modeling of it. They're going to see us and how we become these more calm or serene, or we have more space in our life before reactions, right? So they begin to see how we change, and then they may not pick it up right now, but, when they're 20 years old and they're stressed out, they'll be like, oh, yeah, my dad did this, or, oh, yeah, my mom did that, right?
Yeah.
So they'll have that foundation. So don't think that you're not getting anything in there too. At least that's my hope. I have a 9-year-old, so
that's pretty much how I was hoping too. And I don't want to make it an unpleasant experience. So come on, let's go meditate. Right. You have to, yes, right now. That sort of thing.
Right.
One thing that I have found that makes all the difference in the world is to hold absolutely still, regardless of the itch I have on my nose or the crick I have in my knee. I try to get, that's one reason I like walking first, because it kind of gets some circulation going. And then when I sit, see if there's any itches starting, and then after I make my meditation time official, I just ignore them. And I found that if I do scratch the itch, it totally breaks me out of it, and that I was actually in a deeper level of consciousness than I thought. And it's not until I move my body that I recognize that. And if I don't move, then I, come out of it feeling, like I got 8 hours sleep.
Yep, that's exactly right. That body movement is changing the brain waves, right? So any movement is going to change that brain wave. And as soon as that brain wave is changed, then the meditation changes.
Right.
So total stillness.
Yeah. That's what's hard for him too.
Yeah.
Oh, but I had
we'll take anything we can.
Yeah. So So what are you working on now? You wrote a book.
I wrote a book, just kind of uncovering this journey that I've been on. As a I was a fairly successful entrepreneur. I built some companies and did some stuff, and then I had this child, and I was like, "What am I doing? Like, what happened?"
Now what?
And yeah, now what? And then I really kind of fell into depression and didn't really know how to get out of it. So it's kind of a little bit of unwinding my story and how I discovered Yoga Nidra, and sharing other tools that I've used over the many, many years of just manifesting. There's a lot of talk about manifestation, and this is like just something that I've been natural to for the past, for my life.
Uh-huh.
And so I go into, how to, create the job that you want. Like, how do you get the salary that you want? How do you walk into an office and say, I'm worthy of this, when, for the last 5 years you've been in an office job earning, way less.
Right.
So
right.
I give some practical ways to, really ask for what you want and then get it.
Oh, nice. What's the name of your book?
So here's a funny story. I always wanted to call the book Chasing Grace.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was always chasing this idea. And then I realized grace happened. So I called the book Grace Happens.
Oh. So you're not chasing it. You're letting it happen.
I'm not chasing. Exactly. You're letting it unfold.
Kind of like falling asleep. You can't force sleep. You can't chase sleep. You have to let it happen.
Right. So that's what I was like. If you're chasing something, it's just going to run away.
Right. Of course.
But if you just allow grace to happen, then it just naturally unfolds. It's like a puppy, right? Like I have this 16-week puppy here in front of me, and she just wants to be, like run, chase me.
Yeah, if you start running at her, she's going to run.
Yeah, exactly.
Either from fear or fun.
Right.
Yet if you sit down and make some welcoming gestures, she'll come towards you.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell us, how do we let grace happen and get more money? Because that sounds totally opposite. You don't walk into your boss's office and sit there and let her or him offer you more money than you've been making. You need to sort of encourage that, and that sounds contradictory. You have to be assertive, but not. So I'm confused.
Yeah, I think it's really settling into the mindset, right? So really believing and knowing what you are worth, and how do you do that? So you do that through meditation. You do that through writing, and really discovering like what makes you so valuable. Understanding what you bring to the table. So when you go and ask for that salary, you know exactly why you're asking. Because a lot of people, what I find, Glenn, is that they have a inflated sense, I should be making this amount of money. But really, when you start to look at, pen to paper on like what it is they are worth, maybe they're not worth $200,000. Maybe it's only $150,000. So let's get real about it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's really create and set you up for success. So when you do ask, there's not even a question. Of course you can earn $150,000 because you have the skill set, you know how to do this, and you believe it. Because once you believe something, right, then you start to attract something.
Right. You are listening to the Live Fit podcast. You can find more information about this episode, plus Live Fit's weight loss, health improvement programs, and coaching at livefitpodcast.com. See you there. And when you were talking about asking for more money than you're worth, but believing you're worth that, and how meditation can help shed light on the reality, I'm wondering if a lot of that initial belief of believing you're worth more than you are, comes from your peers. Maybe you see one of your peers earning 200 and you're thinking, well, I should too. I do a same job or similar job. I should be paid the same as him. At least I want to be. I heard a really funny conversation once at one of my earlier jobs. This woman was going to ask for a raise because she needed more money. She bought a new car and now she needed more money to live, so she was going to ask for a raise. I was like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Well, shoot.
Right. So there's that, again, that sense of inflated ego, right? Like, is she really living by the means of what she should be? Right? Well, she just bought a new car. So how is the universe, and again, I don't like to go so woo, but how is the universe going to work around that? How is it going to be justified?
Right. And how does that make her a better employee?
Right. Is she really worth that extra? Is her skill set that valuable? And does she believe it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does she feel that? Because once you start to feel it, and maybe she is. Maybe she absolutely feels it in her bones and body. So that will change everything.
You know, a lot of what I do throughout the day is helping people change their behaviors for the better, for better health. And I say pretty much what you just said. I say that it's really all in your mindset. Once you make up your mind to change this behavior, whether it's quit smoking or eat differently, it's not hard anymore. This is what I do. It's just what I do, and you don't have to make choices between spinach salad and a bag of Doritos. And like, well, that's not even, one of them's not even on my menu, so that wouldn't even be a choice. So you obviously go for the healthier food because that's where your mindset is. How can a person get their mindset to where they want it to be when it's not there?
I think that's really about the self-inquiry and writing things down. I think there's some magic when you put the pen to paper, and I'm not saying fingertips to keyboard. I'm actually talking about your hand writing things down.
There is a difference.
Right? There's a huge difference in activating that reticular activation system. So I think having somebody start to write down their values and really finding out where they're at, I think starting with values is really epic. And a lot of people are just not even there. But looking at the values and where they're at and looking at where they want to go can change somebody's beliefs.
Talk a little bit more about values. So how does somebody know what their values are and how do they change their values?
I think it's really important that people look at a list of values and what values are, because a lot of people don't even know definitions of values. So I think that's a good starting point, and that's what I do with a lot of my clients is just let's look at, like, I didn't realize that fun could be a value.
That what?
And so that fun.
Oh, fun, F-U-N.
Yeah, fun could be a value.
I value fun. I value fun in the people I'm around.
Yeah, fun is
playfulness.
Huge, playfulness is one of my core values. And so having these values, I can run everything I do through this list of values to see if it matches, if it's going to make me feel good, if it's going to improve the quality of my life. So if I put that into real time, it's like, okay, I want to take a vacation. Well, am I going to go to the UK? Well, that's not going to be very fun for me. Or am I going to go to the Bahamas? That is going to be fun for me because there's going to be water. It's going to be sunny, right? So it's a different way to make decisions, I guess.
Sure, and a lot of people would just call that likes. Like, I don't want to go to the Ukraine for vacation. I want to go to a warm tropical beach. And how does a like differ from a value or a preference from a value?
I think the value is something that is so innate within me. I see it as different than just a like. It's like I have to run my life by this.
So
That's how I see the difference.
let's use an example of somebody who tends to eat too much junk food. It's part of their life. They go through drive-through in the evening and they snack on ice cream and chips and whatnot later on in the evening. Something like that, and they know it's not right, but they can't quite seem to, for many reasons probably, eat the foods that are good for their body. How would you discuss values?
Well, they can't stop. Right? That's first I would go back to, like, have you made a decision that you want to stop?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even look at the values yet. Because sometimes what I find is that if they can't make that decision, right, then they're not really done eating the fast food.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask them to look at if they're really ready to make this life change, because that's a life change that they're going to want to make, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
I'm done going through. I don't want to have diabetes.
Right.
Like, no, that's a lot of what happens. So let's get to that point first, and I can start them by looking at different values, right? So let's put some values into place that they can reach for. Does that make sense?
You have an example?
I'm just thinking about the diabetes thing. So
yeah, that's a great example. Somebody who was just diagnosed with prediabetes,
yeah,
and they don't want to increase that and have full-blown diabetes. So how would you talk about values with them?
Right. So, well, and let's say they have 2 kids. Okay, let's make it real.
Okay.
And it's like, well, can you run around with your children? Can you make this is it going to be fun for you? Because I look at them as, is fun one of your values? No, fun's not one of my values. Okay, well, what about honesty? Can that be one of your values? So I start looking at different values to implement into their life so they can start making different decisions. And so if I run through these different values and I'm like, okay, does this work? No. Does integrity work? No. Does, let's see, what's another one? What's another one, Glenn? Give me another value.
Well, fun.
Does fun work? And they're like,
not really.
yeah, I want to have fun. Well, again, it's getting them to the values that are going to work with them so they can start making different decisions.
I said fun just because it was on the top of my mind, but it also relates to the current value that this is what I hear them say very often when we're talking about healthy food. They say it's not fun. And eating an ice cream sundae is fun, or pizza is fun, or even as boring as French fries are, they say French fries are fun. Now, I think there's more to that, and they're making it fun. Maybe it reminds them of a simpler time from childhood. Not really sure, but if, let's say, they put too much value on fun, is there a way to lessen that for the good of the body?
So I would ask them something like, so your food choices are fun for you? Like, that's how you want to look at this? Or is fun about spending quality time with people and about the activities that you do? So I shift that conversation to activities instead of food. Because if somebody's so focused on food, that's a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like
it's huge.
That becomes very problematic. And I totally understand, like, French fries are more fun than squash. But
I disagree.
Are the French fries going to lead me to a fun life? Or is the squash? Right? So if I'm sick every day, right, that's not very fun.
No, not fun at all. When you're sitting in a wheelchair because you lost a foot and everyone's out playing, that's not very fun.
Right. That's not fun. So it's kind of like going down that path and seeing, where it's going to take them and introducing the values that way.
Gotcha. And what else does your book cover?
Well, it talks about yoga nidra. right? And finding this fantastic practice to eliminate anxiety and sleep problems and depression. Because without it, I would not be where I'm at today. Like I would still be miserable.
So what I'm hearing is the combination of CBD and meditation has pretty much changed your life for the better.
100%. Like, it freaks me out how they're just like so small too, right? Like, it's not a big deal. They're little tiny habits, little tiny changes, tweaks that have given me so much freedom.
If I recall, when you were, kind of in a low point, and your friend gave you a bottle of CBD oil, you did not want to try it because of the whole cannabis marijuana connection.
Correct.
Were you afraid that it would make you high, or was there something more to it? Was it the stigma that has been placed on it over the last, 60 years or so?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the other thing is I live in long-term recovery. So I was very, very hesitant about losing my recovery time. And, I like to play by the rules. So
sure.
I'm like, oh, no, this is something that I can't touch. But really, because I'm a biohacker for 20 plus years and really doing the research and investigating, understanding the cannabinoids and understanding what they do in the body and what happens in the different types of cannabinoids and how the terpenes play a huge role in the different CBD oils that are out there. Just really understanding that changed my perception and having that effect, right? Really allowing the nutrients of the hemp to work was like earth-shattering for me.
Meaning it took a while?
No.
Multiple doses, multiple days?
No, it was immediate for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What was the immediate response that you experienced?
Well, my neck was locked up all the time, and immediately my neck was not locked up.
Holy cow.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It was pretty immediate. And not everybody has that experience, but that was my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's pretty dramatic.
It was pretty dramatic. And then after, taking it, for a week and having a different, noticing that my sleep had changed really, really helped as well, right? Because as soon as you start sleeping, your brain and your mind, you start thinking more clearly, right? The chemicals in your body are changing, right? They're becoming more balanced as soon as you start sleeping because you're restoring at night.
Yeah.
So just being able to restore the body, like miracle.
It's dumbfounding how many people put almost no value on a good night's sleep. They know that they have to sleep, so if they get 4 hours, they're like, all right, call it good. And they're fighting with their weight, and they're fighting with stress and depression and energy, and yet the answer is right there in their bed.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. I have a lot of clients that just really, really struggle with sleep, and it's like, okay, well, let's work on this, but let's not become obsessed about it. Because a lot of people become obsessed and then they can't sleep at all.
Yeah,
right?
I gotta hurry up and fall asleep.
Yeah, it's like it backfires on them. So what are the ways that we can really help you to sleep? And I go back to, again, the meditation is like profound. And with Yoga Nidra, it's like one session of Yoga Nidra can equal up to about 4 hours of sleep, of restorative deep sleep. So I really, again, I just go back to the Yoga Nidra because it's so profound when it comes to restoring the body and getting us back to sleep.
That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. What else do you have to share with us today, Lane?
Well, I hope that people will give Yoga Nidra a shot. It's something that definitely helped me and a lot of my clients. And it's so easy to do. You just lie down. That's it. And then you plug into a Yoga Nidra guide. I'm one of those guides. And you just listen. That's it.
That's it?
See where it takes you. Yeah, that's it. See where it takes you.
Well, how can people learn more about Yoga Nidra and find your book?
Yeah, just head on over to my website, lanekennedy.com. There's a free Yoga Nidra practice on there, just at lanekennedy.com/free YN practice. And my book is on Amazon. There's a bunch of information on my website. It's all there for you guys.
Fantastic. I thank you very much for being on the show again.
Yeah. Glenn, thank you so much.
Yeah. Pleasure as always speaking with you. Keep me in the loop when new things come about in your life.
Yes, it's so good to catch up with you. Absolutely. I will. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Live Fit Podcast.